All right, why don't we jump right into our first topic of the day? The FTC is suing to block the $40 billion Nvidia and ARM merger. That's right. They've stepped in to prevent Nvidia from snapping up ARM, to prevent Nvidia from stifling the innovation pipeline for next generation technologies. That is a quote. This FTC complaint alleges that the proposed merger would give Nvidia the ability and incentive to use its control of this technology to undermine its competitors, reducing competition and ultimately resulting in reduced product quality, reduced innovation, higher prices, and less choice. That is one way of putting it.
Yeah.
According to the complaint, the acquisition will harm competition in 3 worldwide markets in which Nvidia competes using ARM-based products already through the license that they have. High-level advanced driver assistance systems for passenger cars. So these offer computer-assisted driving functions like automated lane changing, lane keeping, highway entrance and exit, collision prevention, and that kind of thing. DPU smart NICs, which are advanced networking products that are used to increase the security and efficiency of data center servers, and ARM-based CPUs for cloud computing service providers. So these new and emerging products leverage ARM's technology to meet the performance, power efficiency, and customizability needs of modern data centers that provide cloud computing services. So, for example, Amazon is Amazon has rolled out ARM-based server processors that are reducing their dependence on traditional x86 vendors like AMD and Intel. In fact, the ARM ecosystem is arguably as vibrant as it has ever been. Everything from the watch on your wrist to the huge metal servers that are running all of the cloud infrastructure that powers the services that you use is basically running on ARM, probably at this point. So, the proposed deal would give Nvidia control over computing technology and designs that rival firms rely on to develop competing chips. See, that's the thing. Nvidia has a huge presence, both ARM and otherwise, in at least 2 of these markets. So through the Mellanox acquisition, they've definitely got something going on in the data center networking space. I don't know if they're actually developing DPU smart NICs. It's a space that I'm just frankly not familiar with. But when it comes to driver assistance systems acceleration, they've definitely got their fingers in that pot. And when it comes to cloud computing, absolutely, they've got their fingers in that pot as well. So this is a pretty cut and dried example of a non-competitive behavior, buying the company that controls the IP that your rivals rely on. However, Nvidia has claimed that this wouldn't be a problem, but.
Sure. Sure. We've seen how Nvidia is happy to take advantage of the situation of being on top. I don't know if it's necessarily worse than any other major company that has been in a clearly number 1 position, because that's just always bad for everyone. So I can't necessarily particularly pick on Nvidia here, but it's not like they're necessarily playing nice guys when they're in that situation, and this would just make them even more so.
So here's the thing. I actually wrote a follow-up video. I didn't write the whole thing. I wrote most of it. Let me just see if I'm logged into the right doc here. I created a bunch of notes for a video that I was going to call something along the lines of, like, Nvidia, why are you so mad? You know? I remember what it was going to be called. It was going to be called Who Hurt You? And basically most of the thinking that I was doing about it was really along the lines of, you know, I understand at some point a very, very long time ago, you were a scrappy, desperate competitor, and you kind of had to leverage every possible angle in order to succeed. But
yeah,
that was, at this point, really a very long time ago. And at some point, don't you think you would like to just be liked? You know, at some point, isn't it time to realize that you're not punching up anymore? You're punching down, and it's time to take a more magnanimous approach to your dealings with the rest of the industry, because, and it was inspired partially by NVIDIA's behavior towards Hardware Unboxed. So this was back when that whole thing unfolded, but it was also inspired partially by the, at the time, regulatory resistance, and not just regulatory, but also industry resistance to NVIDIA's, I think at the time, alleged acquisition of ARM. Maybe it wasn't alleged. Here, I've got my notes up. Unfortunately, this particular computer does not have, oh boy. Well, that's a little uncomfortable. This computer doesn't have Word on it, so that's what opening this document looks like. I'm sure someone's going to manage to turn that into... oh, come on. Why does WordPad not even show... Like, this is the kind of stuff... You know, I've done a lot of complaining about Linux in the last few weeks, but this is the kind of stuff that Windows absolutely needs to do better. Why is it that by default in Windows, Open With does not bring up WordPad, which will open this document? Here it is, okay? Here it is. Why would it not just default to this view rather than what we saw before? I don't know. Luke, do you mind curating a couple of merch messages while I go through this? So here is pretty much what I wanted to say about it. Oh man. Yeah, no one would talk on record. I wanted to kind of say, like, hey, you know, let's look at your financials. Let's look at your market share, your public company, right? So this is all stuff that we have access to. Look at current growth. And, you know, there's a bit that I've kind of written here, and I go, I get it. Only the paranoid survive. But there's a limit. You can't and probably don't even want to win 100% market share. So why is your grip so tight, you know? Let's not pretend this pressure on the media through Hardware Unboxed was somehow an isolated incident, right? The difference is just that most of the pressure NVIDIA applies to partners, be they press partners or be they other partners, it happens behind the scenes, where those partners are far more susceptible to the kind of damage that NVIDIA can deal than independent media, who more and more are getting funded directly by their viewers. I have in here, massive shout out, by the way, to my float plane peeps, and of course, LTTstore.com shoppers. So it comes across petty, emotional, and scared. Like, are you really so insecure that when you're in a position of unassailable power in the industry, that you need to put down everyone else who thrives in your ecosystem to reassure yourself you're the top dog? You're the top dog. I said it. So can we put it behind us now? Right? So basically, I wrote a video that was kind of a lot of that. And I'm reminded of it now as we look at this kind of regulatory pushback, because it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from this history of behavior that NVIDIA has, where every time they have an opportunity, whatever they might say about how they're going to encourage a vibrant, independent ARM ecosystem, nobody believes them. They don't believe them, because that's not what NVIDIA does. NVIDIA creates closed standards. They create closed ecosystems. They box out competitors at every possible opportunity. So I get it. I understand why the FTC is coming at them on this. I also understand why there's been a lot of pushback, not just from companies that NVIDIA has been openly hostile towards, like Apple, but also companies that are just worried that whether it's immediate or whether it's over an extended period of time, complete NVIDIA ownership and control over ARM's IP could have lasting and damaging impacts on their business. And that's honestly why ARM has been so successful. That's what's allowed it to proliferate, is that they have created this really amazing business model where you can license their technology in almost every way you could possibly imagine. Literally, actually, in every way you could possibly imagine, from just taking cores that they've designed and essentially paying to have them fabbed, all the way to taking the underlying architecture, designing your own core. And I mean, look at what Apple's done with that. They've managed to outcompete the entire rest of the industry with an underlying fundamental IP that anyone can license. I mean, it's incredible, right? And so why are we why are we going to risk damaging a good thing, I guess is the question. I mean, really, RISC-V is coming.
Yeah.
RISC-V is coming for ARM's lunch already. So
It's been kind of coming for a long time, but
do we need to accelerate that transition? Because that's what I feel like might happen if Nvidia were to acquire ARM. I feel like a lot of these licensees of ARM's technology would just go, okay, well, writing's on the wall now. I guess it's time for us to go ahead and...
Someone in Flowplane chat said, as you were kind of transitioning into that, I think possibly before you mentioned RISC, they said RISC-V would get really popular if ARM gets sold. It's like, yeah, potentially.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, but it costs so much and it takes so much time to make these major transitions. You guys
Yes.
got to understand,
Yes.
hardware is just such a small piece of the puzzle these days. It's all about the software. And so if Amazon had to go, whether it's Amazon or Facebook or Google or whoever it is, if they have to go and switch architectures like this, okay, we're going RISC-V now. It's not just as simple as, okay, compile the code for RISC-V and here we go. Not by a long shot. So much optimization takes place these days. And it's a years and many, many millions of dollars investment to do something like this. So honestly, I know I'm all about progress in general. But maybe we could ARM is just now, swinging for the fences. Why don't we let it just be for a little bit?
I don't think not wanting some gigantic conglomerate company to gobble up another company, I don't think that's anti-progress. I think you're all right.
I'm all right.
I think you're all right.
All right, I'm coming away okay on this one.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, the FTC, I don't think, is the only ones resisting this move. So